Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome to today's episode of How We're Getting Fucked. I'm your host, Louis Rossman. I don't usually discuss individual politicians on this channel, and if I do, it's usually within a specific context. It's this politician voted against this particular thing. Hey look, they got money from Cisco and IBM. It'll be something that's very specific and targeted to a particular occasion. I usually don't review politicians as a whole, so this is going to be a video that is out of form for me. There's a politician named Thomas Massie, and I want to tell you the story before I go over what I want to go over today of how I first came to learn about this politician existing. I was at a party a few years ago. I don't go to parties very often. I'm not a very sociable person, but I was talking to people who were in social circles several levels above me, and I didn't realize how far above me until I started attending certain events. And when I went to this one party, there was somebody there that I'm guessing has somewhere between 3 to 5 zeros more in the net worth than I do. And they were talking with their assistant, and they were complaining in the same manner that I was complaining when I went to a Fogo de Chao to celebrate something with a friend 2 years ago, and it took over 25 minutes to get any meat served to me while they're expecting $75 a person. They were complaining this way about reaching out to Thomas Massie's office and hearing, yeah, you can donate. Just to be very, very clear, you're not going to hear back from us at all. We're not even going to take your phone calls or anything. And that was an interesting thing to hear. So I'm listening to somebody that's probably in the 100 million to billion, maybe several billion range, who's complaining that they were not able to purchase a politician. And they were talking about this like this is bad customer service. That was one of the best endorsements that I've ever heard for any politician. I almost wish that I had recorded this. You couldn't come up with a better campaign ad if you tried than listening to someone in an entitled manner complain that they were not able to purchase a politician to get what they wanted out of that person, even if they paid them. I didn't really look at much of his legislation over the years or keep up with him because he is a House representative in the state of Kentucky, a state that I do not reside in, nor have any plans to relocate to or live in. And what I've noticed over the years is every time I see an interesting piece of legislation come out, it often has his name on it, and it often goes nowhere, and it's often something that pisses off the people that other people who are in Congress. One example is with the kill switch in cars. Many of you asked why I don't care about kill switches in cars. Why don't I talk about it more often? And the reason that I gave in one of my videos is that I have talked about this many times and nobody seems to care. Thomas Massie actually pushed a bill to try and get rid of this. He wanted to ban this concept altogether, and everybody voted against him. There's also the issue of public surveillance I've talked about a lot in this channel, how the government can sidestep the Fourth Amendment protections that you have to unreasonable search and seizure by purchasing data on you from data brokers. So if you have clicked some bullshit end user license agreement that's 900 pages that said they get access to location or this or that or the other, even though the government is not supposed to look up all this information on you without a warrant, there's nothing that keeps the government from just being able to pay a data broker to get this data on you in an end-round way. And there's also the issue of these automated license plate readers going up all over America, creating this weird public surveillance dragnet that is lame. He pushed a bill to try and get rid of this. This would mean that the government can no longer buy personal data on citizens. You may know him as one of the people that put forth the bill to get the Epstein files released in Congress last year, which was massively popular among, I would say, a majority of the world. He regularly votes against giving money to a country that will tend to call you an anti-something if you say, I don't want 30 billion of my dollars going to that country. And he takes $0 of money from those lobbying organizations. He lives off the grid. He has his own solar setup for his own electricity. He slaughters his own chickens for food. Like, this is the quintessential American. I probably don't agree with him on every topic. There's probably many areas where I say I'd be mad at the way that you voted. But the idea that the quintessential American, one of the few people that's actually pushing bills, the only one pushing bills that actually address the issues that I've been talking about on this channel for years, just got kicked out of office, is highly depressing to me. The person that pushed a bill for no kill switches in cars is no longer in Congress. The person that pushed for the Epstein files to be released is no longer in Congress. The person that said maybe we should spend $3 to $30 billion on our own people rather than Israel just got kicked out of Congress. And that's highly depressing to me. You see, there are people that will say that this race had a lot of money put into it. And that's not something that I really accept at face value because I don't think it puts the blame completely where it belongs. When we're talking about campaign finance in the United States and we're talking about lobbying and bribery and everything else, when you're talking about buying a politician, I can understand the manner in which that works. I can understand that bargain where somebody goes up to a politician and says, I will help you stay in office so that you can continue to get the UBI of being a senator or congressman without really having to do much in exchange for voting the way that I want. I can understand the concept of buying a politician for several hundreds of thousands of dollars. What I can't understand is when people use this with regards to the election to talk about voters. Because when you talk about money in elections, You're not going up to every single voter and saying, here's $1,000 to vote against this person. You're not bribing the American people. You're essentially able to run ads. You can have more ads. You can have billboards. You can pay media companies. All it does is create content that people can listen to. But people then have to listen to this content and then say, I agree. I should vote against the person that says kill switches in cars are a bad idea. I should vote against the person that thinks that the government shouldn't be allowed to buy my data. I should vote against the person that says that maybe we shouldn't send tens of billions of dollars to a foreign country simply because if you don't do that, they will call you anti-something. And that's quite annoying. That's a more difficult pill to swallow. There are people in the comments of the community post that I made that will use acronyms like TDS. And they'll say, well, if only he wasn't so this anti-something. I'll post my reply. I think the problem is that Trump has created a society where even the slightest criticism or disagreement with him gets you branded as deranged. It's moved the Overton window very far to where you're either in lockstep with him or deranged. So many candidates in the Republican Party campaign on the idea that they vote with Trump most of the time on everything, including the candidates in my state in my current election. This is not what I want. I want somebody who represents me and thinks for themselves. I don't want somebody that votes along with somebody else most of the time. I want my representative to vote against everybody else. If they say, we want your car to have a kill switch in it, I want my representative to vote against that shit. If the government says that they want the ability to buy data on me from data brokers and use it against me, I want my representative to vote against that. I think that's a good thing. I like the idea of Congress having checks and balances. I don't want to elect somebody who is a rubber stamp. And I'm noticing more and more often in the Republican Party in the United States that the people who are running in these primary and general elections, usually in the primary, will run saying, votes 100% with Trump, stands 100% with Trump, always votes along with this person. And can I just say that that's not what I want? Am I allowed to say that that's not what I want? I want the candidate that analyzes each individual situation for what it is and then decides to do what they believe is best. I don't want the candidate that always votes along with someone else. That's a lapdog. That's a poodle. I want somebody who is their own man or woman, who thinks for themselves, who is self-sufficient. And when you look at Thomas Massie, he really does embody a lot of what I talk about here on this channel. Again, he has his own solar off-the-grid setup. He put together this crazy fucking shit so that while he's away in Washington, he can monitor his chicken coop at home. He is an engineer who values the concept of personal sovereignty and ownership. And, I'm making this video to make a point, because many people on this channel will say in the comments, and you'll often see this, one of the top voted comments in many videos, Lewis, when are you going to run for Congress, or when are you going to run for city council in your area? When would you run for public office? Why don't you do that? And the reason I don't do that is because while it's very easy at the end of the day to blame dark money in politics and everything else, all this dark money is simply used to create advertisements, TikTok videos, billboards that people read. And if people are swayed by those arguments, then we do have to be serious here and look and say the stuff that he's presenting and the stuff that I'm presenting is not popular. What is popular is saying, I will vote with this person exactly how they vote every time. I stand with this person. That's what matters. I don't want to be a representative. And I think that's the thing as a politician I would be doing wrong. Because as a politician, you're supposed to do what people want. And people have decided this is what they want. As a representative, I would not want to do what people want. I would want to do what I think is correct in the particular situation. If my constituents think that kill switches in cars are a good thing, fuck them. No offense, but fuck them. I'm not going to say my job is to represent the constituents. I'm not saying this is Kentucky's electorate. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying hypothetically, if my constituents in my area said, yo, I want kill switches in cars, I think that's a really great thing to give them more power, I would say fuck them. Fuck my constituents and fuck that law. If they said, yeah, the Epstein files really shouldn't be released, we really should, fuck them. I would not care what my constituents want at that point. I would not be able to represent them. I would do what I believe is right in that circumstance. For me, it's not about seeing the type of politicians that get into office. It's about seeing the politicians that get kicked out of office, that discourage me from ever running. And you can blame it on dark money and this, that, or the other as much as you want. But at the end of the day, you really have to look at the mirror, at culture, and see that this is what people voted for. All the money can do is purchase advertisements. Those advertisements get put in front of people, and at the end of the day, people have to look at that and go, yeah, point taken, I agree. I know there's going to be comments on how everything is corrupt and blah, 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 but at the end of the day, this is the system working as intended. People did not believe that he was representing them, so they got somebody else. Everybody likes to talk about how much money was spent in the election. I'm not a fan of many of the groups that were putting a bunch of money into the primary challenger, and I'm just going to leave that for other channels to go over instead of going into that minefield here. But the point of the matter is that what they're able to do with that that money is buy ads. They can buy firms that astroturf on Reddit. They can buy billboards. They can buy people to publish silly op-eds. All an ad is me presenting something to you, but you have to believe it. You have to read this and go, wow, that's a good idea. And for the person who disagrees with me more than anything else in this, just imagine for a moment. Imagine that if I just interrupted this video and said, by the way, let's talk about today's sponsor, this subscription-based thermostat company. You should buy from them because they give you security updates. And you may think that when you own it, it's better, but are you really going to remember to do the security updates and everything else yourself? You don't want to deal with that. Just pay a subscription for this closed source thermostat. We promise we're not going to change the price on you later or turn it off, even though we totally have the ability to do so. I don't know how many billions of dollars I would have to spend to get you to believe that. All this money that goes into these campaigns is spent on different forms of advertising. And imagine yourself, to get you to do something like that, how good would the production of the ad have to be for you to change your mind? How many times do you have to see that billboard before you change your mind? How many other people would you have to see saying these things before you change your mind? Or would you just get to the point where you think the entire world has lost it, but no, I'm not buying a subscription thermostat? If I were to come out here and say that repairability is actually not something you should really care about, it doesn't really matter as much. Repairability is only a small part of sustainability, so just stop focusing on that. How many of you would believe me versus start Googling, is Louis Rossmann insane? If I started to tell you after years of enjoying really good speakers that Raycons were the best headphones ever made, check out our sponsor, would you go and buy Raycons, or would you try and investigate if I'm doing okay? I want you to think about this for a moment before you get mad. As a critical viewer of this channel, if I were to come out here and say that I think that repairable devices are stupid because making devices repairable means they have to cost a lot more money, and making things repairable means that you're really making it bad for the planet because you have to use more resources. This video has been sponsored by Apple Inc. Would you believe me because it was an ad? Or would you critically think about it first? You'd probably critically think about it first. You may just Google, is Louis Rossmann compromised? Has Louis Rossmann lost his mind? You'd be looking in the background somewhere to see if there's like a red dot on my chest or something. Advertisements are not hypnosis. They're not commands at the point of a gun. They're just ideas that you put out there. At the end of the day, we as people have to choose whether or not we agree with or disagree with these for a number of different reasons. One of the reasons that I would never want to become a politician is because I'm looking at the landscape right now, and I'm not looking at who wins. I'm looking at who loses. If Thomas Massie isn't able to make it, how the fuck would I? I think this is a pretty sad day. I'm not going to insult people. I'm not going to degrade them for voting differently than how I would have voted. That's not my place here on this channel, and that doesn't change anything. I'm just explaining how I feel. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.